If I play just one note, can you tell me what it means? Does that mean anything to you? You need some context, right? You don't even know which note that was. Notes don't generally mean anything on their own. Their context and the associations we have with musical sounds create the meaning we experience. It's kind of like language. Like, does the syllable mean anything just by itself? Not really. You might think of a caveman or a baby or something. We sort of associate that kind of sound with simple beings, but you couldn't say for sure that whoever said that was for sure definitely communicating anything in particular. But if we add more syllables, say there, all of a sudden we have other. Or we could make America. Music is sort of like this. One note might not mean much, but let's add just one other note. Suddenly, that sounds positive. Sunny. How about this? Not as much, right? This? Or this? Let's add a fourth pitch. Or shift those same notes around just a half step or two. See, we can do a lot. Each of those pitches in a scale has a relationship with the others, which we can hear and kinda sorta understand. Any chord built on any pitch says something and changes the context, especially if you start to modify those chords with notes and chords from other scales. They take on all kinds of meaning. It's really a lot to process, actually, if you haven't studied music. And sometimes, if you have. So we start to call the different harmonies qualities. Major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Then there's the seventh chord. And we string all of that into music. Don't get overwhelmed. You don't need to remember every one of these. I just want you to know that there are a lot of different parts to music, just like language. Pop quiz on the parts of speech, anyone? I don't know. And they all get used to tell us things about what's happening in the movie, opera, TV show, symphony, whatever. We also know sounds that aren't just harmony. If you add timing or timbre, like what the instruments sound like, distinct from other sounds, all of a sudden the music can be differentiated, even if the harmony is the same, and even if you don't know the qualities of the chords. You hear them and make associations. In music, we might call these tropes. Tropes, or musical ideas which we recognize, all come from somewhere. Music or tropey sorts of sounds get used for all kinds of stuff. The little jingle you hear when you turn on your laptop, the bell at school, and a lot of those tropes become musical ideas we start to recognize without realizing. So where can we find a trope that we all recognize but not realize we know? Well, historically, there's been this practice where hunters would play horn calls to each other while they were out hunting to signal over distance. This call or that call meant something different, and the horn sound became associated with the hunt. Hunters and aristocrats that hunted were often depicted in flattering, heroic light, and it sort of became a thing to associate horn with the hero of a story. In Wagner's Ring Cycle, the main hero, Siegfried, his theme is just basically a big horn call. There are also correlations like the bugle, which is closely associated with the military, since it was also an instrument to send signals, but for use in battle, in the camp, and all that. This particular sound is often used for more sober music, when things are serious for the characters, or for civic, military, government sort of moments in stories, since we closely associate it with the military funeral and taps. This sort of thing, where horn, bugle, cornet, or trumpet, or often a whole giant brass section, became such a second nature thing, a sound for the heroic character theme in later operas and eventually movies and things, that we don't always even realize we've been trained to correlate it with those things. There's another cool trope that other composers use all over the place, with even older roots than the horn. I think. I'm pretty sure. One of the most important composers in music history was a Renaissance guy named Claudio Monteverdi. He wrote madrigals, the first proper operas, and he developed some trope ideas himself. He was looking for a way to musically reflect agitation. He was reading Plato, as you do, and came across a passage, quote, which refers to the ancient Phrygian harmonia. He said that the style he developed, actually he claimed to have rediscovered it from the Greeks, which was like a popular line back then, fittingly imitate the utterance and accents of brave men who are engaged in warfare. And the way he represented militaristic qualities in music was fast repeated notes repeating really quickly. He called this stile concitato, or agitated style. And it has stuck around. Probably also compounding this is the association we have with modern martial sounds. The military snare drum, used throughout military history. This also has a snappy, rapid, rhythmic quality, which is related to this trope. It may be its own thing or not, but we definitely associate these sounds with military, going into battle, confrontation, violence. You can hear it all over the place. And that's just one or two related examples of tropes. There are ones for pastoral stuff, up to no good stuff, sexy stuff, and people are always writing their own take on a style, modifying it for the story they happen to be telling right now. Or, one of my favorite things to think about, layering different tropes to get a really specific sounding theme. And eventually, those treatments mutate into a new version of the trope. It's actually hard to always nail down exactly which trope you're listening to, or maybe whether you're hearing multiple tropes at a time. But that's what's so cool about this. This music can have almost as much versatility and subtlety as the script or the images, or it can comment on those parts of the film or show or whatever. And it's all there, influencing how you, the audience, experience that content. So next time you're watching an action movie, ask yourself, how many tropes might you hear over the course of even just one movie? Have you recognized any other musical tropes? Just from your own experience in games, music, film? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do like and share the video. There's a little button with a bell on it, and then if you click that, then you'll see new stuff whenever I post it. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.